Let's go back to the Middle East now, where the cost of the war in terms of human life continues to grow. More than 1,400 civilians are said to have died in Iran, more than 1,000 in Lebanon. At least 15 people have been killed in Israel. Both the United States and Israel say they do more than any other militaries to avoid civilian casualties. But is that true? We're joined now by Wes Bryant, a former advisor on precision warfare and civilian harm mitigation at the Pentagon. Thanks very much for being with us. And first of all, what do you make of the campaign so far? Is it legal? Was there a clear justification of self-defense? Was there an imminent threat?
No, I'd say this has been highly illegal. You know, we've seen fluctuations of justifications for this. First, it was decades of aggression on part of Iran, then to liberate the Iranian people, ballistic missile program, the nuclear weaponization program, which does not exist, at least in the capacity as the Trump administration and Netanyahu have stated. Then it was self-defense of an imminent attack, which didn't exist. Then preemptive self-defense. Then retaliation for an assassination against Trump, or an attempt. And now we're at regime change, complete military destruction, and unconditional surrender, as has been voiced by Trump in the last few days. So absolutely not, completely illegal, and really a further denigration of international rules and norms that we've worked toward as a global community since the end of World War II, if not before that.
Right. And when it comes to this whole idea of the mitigation of civilian harm and the precision of the bombing, I mean, do you accept that there is a serious intent on behalf of the United States and Israel to avoid civilian casualties?
I assess that in modern U.S. operations, there is a serious intent. But we've had great successes and great failures, and that's part of why the civilian harm mitigation response enterprise that was stood up under the Biden administration, that's part of why it existed. Of course, it was slashed by Hegseth as soon as he took the seat last year. Now, on part of Israel, I argue that absolutely not. I mean, on paper, yes, they state that they adhere to international law and that they have all these targeting procedures to protect civilians. But, precision warfare is not decimating 80 to 90% of a civilian infrastructure, as we see in Gaza, with precision munitions, is not killing tens of thousands of civilians with precision munitions. The danger here is that we're importing these standards of genocide that Israel's been carrying out into a joint war against Iran now. And we already see signs of incredibly reckless targeting on part of the U.S. And to me, that's horrifying as a former U.S. warfighter and targeter myself.
Well, you're still looking at the way that they're operating. There was this strike on the girls' school, which they've yet to explain or admit that it was American forces. Are you clear that it was an American strike?
I am clear. It will take a whole lot of convincing, and at this point, it's on the onus is on the administration and Secretary of Defense, or War as he calls himself, to show otherwise. But yes, this was a U.S. strike, and even worse than that, it was a result of complete and utter negligence. I mean, violating standards and doctrine and practices that we've had, that our allies, the UK has had for 2-3 decades plus, beyond any evolution in civilian harm mitigation that we have tried to in place since. This was just an egregious violation, should not have happened, especially when you have months to years to prepare for these strategic type of strikes. And there were no U.S. troops on the ground actively in contact, in danger from Iranian forces. That's when it's time to get each and every one of these strategic strikes right, and actually characterize them, look at whether or not they are still valid targets. That did not happen.
The suggestion was that it was based on old intelligence. Is that true? You've been looking at it. Is that what was the fault here?
By all counts, and that's what struck me right off the bat, even before we had the internal reporting from a source in the Pentagon saying this was likely old imagery from the Defense Intelligence Agency and old targeting data. That's what it looked like to me right off the bat, that this was a case of misidentification. It doesn't excuse it. It may not be technically a war crime in that case, but it doesn't excuse the negligence. And I say that because a war crime, has to show intentionality. I certainly hope that U.S. forces did not have the intention to kill 200 civilians here, and most of them young schoolgirls. That doesn't override the negligence in this instance.
Now, I mean, the point made, you were talking about the Israelis and Gaza, the point made repeatedly by the Israelis was that Hamas was moving military equipment and people into civilian areas. They were using civilians as human shields, in other words. The point has also been made, to be fair, by the Americans in Iran, though not to the same extent. And you've got Pete Hegseth saying no nation in the history of warfare takes more care to avoid civilian casualties. So, I mean, what do you make of that?
I mean, these are standard excuses and justifications that we've seen, especially from the Netanyahu government, for human atrocity. I spent years doing strikes, hundreds, thousands of strike operations in the war on terror. And I can tell you there's a better way, even with some of our failures, and we've had them on the U.S. and coalition side, there's a far better way to conduct strike operations than what we've seen in Gaza. And there's a better way than what we're seeing right now in Iran. So hiding behind these just kind of blanket generalized statements doesn't reduce the atrocity whatsoever.
OK. Wes Bryant, thank you very much for coming on. Thank you.
Thank you.